Welcome back. If you are a Sagittarius and you are hearing these words right now, stay with me for a moment longer. Because it is not an accident that you are here, at this exact point in time. Something in your life is reaching its final edge. A quiet but unmistakable feeling that you cannot continue the same way anymore, even if everything on the surface still looks fine. This is not a collapse. This is the moment just before the truth begins to reveal itself, just before a major cycle closes, so another path can finally open. What you are about to hear is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to awaken you, not to take something away, but to return to you what was always yours. So take a slow breath, let your defenses soften, and allow yourself to step into this flow. Because from this moment forward, there is a very deep calling waiting for you to listen. Sagittarius, give me a slow moment with you. You do not need to do anything right now. Just sit still, let your shoulders soften, and allow your breath to go a little deeper than usual. There are moments in life when we do not arrive somewhere out of curiosity, and not by coincidence either. We are guided there. And this moment is exactly that. You are not accidentally hearing these words. There is a very quiet, very deep current that has brought you here at the precise time you need it most, even if you have not yet found the words for why. The universe is whispering to you, now not with familiar comfort, but with a truth strong enough to awaken you. This is not a message meant to soothe. This is a message meant to release. A reminder that some things cannot be carried forever, no matter how used to them we have become. Some burdens once helped you survive, but held too long. They quietly prevent you from truly living. Sagittarius, for a long time now, you have been walking with a feeling of moving forward while still being pulled back. As if one part of you longs to expand, to explore, to be free, while another part remains tied to old promises, old beliefs, old roles. You tried to understand. You tried to endure. You tried to believe that if you were patient just a little longer, everything would eventually change on its own. But the truth is, some cycles do not end through waiting. They only end when we find the courage to say stop. This ending is not here to take something precious from you. It is here to return you to yourself. Not the ending of a person, or a relationship, or a specific situation, but the ending of an invisible thread that has quietly guided your choices for a very long time. A thread that taught you to place yourself last, to explain away what hurt you, to call silence peace. You may have felt this for a long time already. In those private moments when night falls and all the noise fades away, a question keeps returning. Is this really all there is? Is the version of me I am living now the fullest version I could become? You are not weak for asking that. On the contrary, it is the sign of a soul ready to grow once more. Sagittarius now stands at a boundary both fragile and sacred. On one side, familiarity, old, heavy, but known. On the other, the unknown, carrying the promise of relief, truth, and inner freedom. The universe is not pushing you. It is simply standing there, patiently, placing an honest choice before you. No more gray areas. No more standing in between. No more delaying the life your inner voice has been calling you toward. You may feel a touch of sadness. There may be moments of uncertainty when you wonder if you are doing the right thing. That is human, but remember this: every true ending carries a very special kind of light. Not bright, not loud, but clear enough to illuminate the path ahead. The light of truth, of freedom, of no longer betraying yourself just to keep appearances calm. And when the old door finally closes, not with a crash, but with a deep, quiet stillness, you will notice something inside you begin to expand. Lighter, wider, as if the space within you finally has room to breathe. Things you could not see before begin to appear. Answers you were never searching for arrive on their own, clear, gentle, certain. Sagittarius, allow yourself to believe that you did not come here to end in loss, but to begin in awareness. This ending does not close you. It opens you. And as you step forward, not in a rush, but in full presence, you will feel a new current waiting for you. Quiet yet steady. As if life itself is preparing to tell you something very different. Very true, and deeply worthy of everything you have lived through. And as you stand within that quiet space that has just opened, Sagittarius, a feeling begins to rise, one that feels familiar, yet difficult to name. It is not loud, not intense, just a soft, steady wave moving upward from deep within, from a place you have often avoided looking at directly. A sense that something in the world around you has not matched your inner truth for a very long time now. This is not something you realize today. You have felt it in small moments, ordinary moments, moments easy to dismiss. And you did dismiss them because facing that feeling would have required change. There is someone within your inner circle, perhaps someone you trusted, someone you shared the most with, who has not been fully honest. Not necessarily through obvious lies. Sometimes dishonesty lives in what is left unsaid, in the way eye contact is avoided, in silence that appears exactly when presence is needed. The energy of duality does not always arrive looking dark or harmful. It often begins as convenience, as small compromises, as one person slowly placing their own interests above shared truth. Sagittarius, your intuition has been whispering this for a long time. There have been moments when you felt unsettled without knowing why. Times when words sounded beautiful, yet left you feeling strangely empty. Moments when you sensed you were giving more than you were receiving, and told yourself you were just being too sensitive. You were not wrong for feeling this. You were simply trying to keep things from falling apart, even if that meant betraying your own emotions in the process. In the time ahead, what has been unclear will no longer remain in the shadows. Not because you go searching for answers, but because truth has a way of finding its own way out when a cycle is ready to close. You will receive a clear sign. It may be something small that suddenly becomes impossible to ignore. A careless comment, an action that does not align, or an event that causes all the final pieces to fall into place. You will not need to analyze it. You will simply know. Not through logic, but through a firm, unmistakable feeling inside. That moment may cause your heart to sink slightly. Your breath may catch for just a second. A wave of sadness may pass through, not overwhelming, but deep enough to make you pause. That is completely normal. Truth, when finally seen clearly, is rarely comfortable at first. But it never arrives to punish you. It comes to end the quiet confusion that has been wearing you down day after day, without you even realizing it. You cannot continue moving forward while constantly turning back to convince yourself that everything is fine. Life does not ask you to become hard or cold. It simply invites you to be honest with yourself. And sometimes, that honesty begins by admitting that certain connections are no longer rooted in mutual respect, even if they still appear calm on the surface. Sagittarius, this is not the moment for anger. Not the moment for confrontation. Not the moment to demand explanations. This is the moment to listen to your most subtle inner response. When you allow the truth to be acknowledged, something unexpected happens. You feel lighter even if you do not yet know what comes next. That lightness is the sign that you are no longer straining to hold a role that no longer fits. You may realize that you have grown far beyond who you were when that relationship first began. What was once acceptable no longer is. What once required your silence is no longer worth the cost of your inner peace. That does not make you a bad person. It simply means you are entering a different stage of life, one where truth matters more than artificial comfort. As the thin fog of uncertainty dissolves, you begin to see more clearly what truly deserves to stay. Not everyone will continue walking with you on the road ahead. And that does not mean loss. It is a natural reordering of life, making space for more honest connections to appear. And in the stillness that follows this realization, when you no longer question whether you were imagining things, another feeling begins to form. Quiet, steady, as if an unseen hand is restoring balance, adjusting the scales. There is no need to rush, no need to decide immediately. Simply allow yourself to remain with the truth that has just been illuminated. Because when you stop turning away from what you already know, a very deep current of justice begins to move. Silently, steadily, and impossibly to reverse. And as you allow yourself to remain still within the truth that has just been illuminated, Sagittarius, a very subtle movement begins to unfold around you. Not loud, not dramatic, yet deep enough for you to feel that something is being rearranged, not by human hands, but by an order far greater than any individual will. This is where universal justice begins to speak, not through words, but through balance. Sagittarius justice was activated the moment you stopped turning away from your own intuition. You do not need to do anything else now. No explaining, no demanding, no defending the truth through arguments or tension. There are moments in life when the most powerful action is non-interference. When you release the need to control the outcome, the universe takes over the rest with a precision and fairness no human judgment could ever match. You may have wondered before why some people seem to escape consequence. Why manipulation, exploitation, or emotional carelessness can persist for so long without being confronted. But true justice never arrives in a rush. It arrives on time, and when it does, it misses nothing, and it exaggerates nothing. Each person faces the result of exactly what they have sown, no more, no less. Not as punishment, but as a restoration of balance that had been disturbed. Sagittarius, the most important thing for you to remember now is this. You are not responsible for carrying the lessons of others. You have been holding too much that never belonged to you. Emotions, wounds, consequences you were never meant to bear. And now, as the wheel of karma begins to turn, you are allowed to set those burdens down. Not in anger, but in gentle awareness. You may notice something quietly remarkable. When you stop reacting, when you stop trying to prove yourself, the situations that once drained you begin to dissolve on their own. The people who once left you confused start revealing their nature through their own actions. You do not need to speak. Truth speaks for you, and in that silence, you will feel your personal power returning, slowly, steadily, solid and grounded. This is the moment you reclaim your self-respect in a new way. Not by building walls, not by becoming cold, but by fully understanding your value and no longer placing it in someone else's hands. When you stop seeking validation from the outside, injustice no longer shakes you. The calm you feel now is not indifference. It is the sign of an inner strength that has matured. A karmic cycle is closing, Sagittarius. The cycle of giving more than you receive. The cycle of staying silent to keep the peace. The cycle of convincing yourself that everything is fine while slowly running empty inside. As this cycle ends, you will realize you have lost nothing. Instead, you have regained so much. Clarity, inner freedom, the feeling of standing upright in your own life again. In the time ahead, you may witness tangible shifts. Someone who once made you doubt yourself begins facing their own limitations. A situation that once felt deeply unfair is quietly corrected in ways you never expected. But remember this, you do not need to watch for it or wait for it. Universal justice does not need an audience. It only requires that you do not block its path with fear or attachment. As you move forward with this new lightness, you begin to understand something essential. True strength is not found in winning against someone else. It is found in no longer being pulled into battles that were never yours. And within that quiet space, as your heart grows lighter, something else begins to emerge. A sense of expansion. A silent trust that what comes next will no longer be built on blind sacrifice, but on worthiness. Sagittarius, allow yourself to believe that when balance is restored, not only are distortions corrected, but the path ahead becomes brighter as well. A new current is forming, carrying opportunities, values, and rewards that match the person you are becoming. And as you continue forward, without rushing, without doubt, you will feel it clearly. This time, life is no longer asking you to endure in order to move on. It is inviting you to step forward with lighter hands and a steady, open heart. And in that lightness you have just begun to touch, Sagittarius, something very different starts to appear. Not rushed excitement, not sudden intensity, but a quiet expansion like the sky slowly opening after a long rain. You can feel it in the way you see things more calmly now, in how your heartbeat is no longer racing, in how your thoughts stop circling the same old worries. When the burdens that were never yours are finally set down, inner space begins to open. And within that precious space, another invitation arrives, gentle, yet full of promise. As your attention turns toward your work, your livelihood, and everything you have been building over time, the message becomes almost unmistakable. An opportunity is moving very close to you now, not something distant you have to wait years for, but something you can touch in just a few days, possibly when you least expect it. It does not arrive with loud knocking. It comes naturally, through a casual conversation, a sudden idea while doing something familiar, or an offer coming from a direction you never seriously considered before. You will recognize it by a very specific feeling. A gentle inner vibration, not fear, but recognition. As if something inside you whispers, this is what you have been preparing for all along, even if you never had words for it before. It may take the form of a new project, a different collaboration, an income-generating idea that suddenly feels clear, or even an unexpected source of money from something you once saw as secondary, almost insignificant, but now reveals real potential. Sagittarius, the only thing standing between you and this flow of abundance is not your ability, and it is not luck. It is an old habit, a deeply rooted way of thinking, scarcity, fear of loss, the caution that makes you hold tightly to what you have, afraid that if you loosen your grip, everything will disappear. You learned control as a form of protection, and it carried you through difficult times. But now, that same control is quietly slowing the flow that wants to reach you. You may be used to asking yourself whether you truly deserve more. Whether, if life opens wider, you will be able to hold what comes. Those questions are not weakness. They simply reflect a phase where you had to learn how to survive before learning how to trust. And now, as life places a different doorway in front of you, what is being asked of you is not more effort but a deep permission. Permission to believe that your worth no longer needs proof. As you begin to soften, not recklessly, but with conscious trust, the wheel of fortune begins to move. At first, very slowly, almost unnoticed. Then gradually, the right connections appear. The right opportunities begin to find you. Not by chance, but because your inner energy has shifted. When fear no longer drives your decisions, you start attracting situations built on respect and fairness. Along the way, there may be moments when you feel tempted to return to old patterns, to hold tight again just to feel safe. Be gentle with yourself then. Every transformation needs time for the body and the mind to adjust. But remember the growing calm inside you. The sense that you no longer need to strain to prove your value. The sense that life is no longer asking you to sacrifice peace in exchange for success. Sagittarius, as you walk forward with this quiet trust, abundance does not arrive only as numbers or external results. It shows up in how deeply you sleep at night, in how work begins to feel inspiring instead of heavy, in how you know when to pause and when to move. And as these pieces begin to align, you realize something important. This is not just a financial shift. It is a change in your relationship with value, with enough, with yourself. There is a beautiful feeling that emerges here, as if life itself is smiling not through distant promises, but through signs that are close, real, and present. And when you allow yourself to continue forward with hands no longer clenched, with a heart no longer guarded, a warm current is already waiting. Quiet abundance. Steady abundance. Like early morning sunlight, not blinding, but strong enough to illuminate the road beneath your feet and everything that is slowly coming into view ahead. And as the flow of abundance begins to find its own rhythm, Sagittarius, another space within you quietly awakens. Not loud like ambition, not sharp like planning, but softer, deeper. It is the place where the heart begins to speak, not through rushing questions, but through a very real knowing that it is time to look again at how you love, how you allow yourself to be loved, and how you once protected yourself from old wounds. The energy here is deep now, unhurried, not shallow, like warm water moving slowly through layers of long-held memory. If you are in a relationship, you may already feel this subtle shift. Conversations begin to soften. They become more honest. Silences no longer feel heavy. They carry listening instead. Old bruises that were once avoided are touched now with gentleness. Not to reopen pain, but to understand one another more clearly, to rebuild the foundation with respect and true presence. Healing does not always arrive as tears or apologies. Sometimes it comes when two people sit beside each other, saying very little, yet knowing they are exactly where they are meant to be. Connection is no longer about holding tight. It becomes trust. The quiet confidence that you can be yourself without fear of being left behind. And if both hearts are ready, this relationship can move into a new depth, where love is no longer effort, but companionship. If you are on your own, the energy carries a different tone. Not loneliness but stillness, right before something real arrives. There is someone closer to you than you may realize. Someone you see often. Someone who has been part of your life in a very natural way. Before, you saw them through logic, through habit, through familiarity. But a moment is coming very gentle, very quiet when you begin to see them through your heart. And when that happens, you realize something important. Some connections do not need noise to be deep. This connection is not born from lack or fear of being alone. It does not come to fill a void. It arrives when you are already whole. When you are no longer searching for someone to save you, only someone to share with. Because of that, it feels real. It feels safe. As if you do not need to strain to be anyone else. But Sagittarius, maturity in love also asks for clarity. Before this bond fully finds its rhythm, something needs to be brought into the light. Not a shock, not betrayal, but a missing piece, an unspoken truth, a feeling that was never named. It may be the other person's fear, or a boundary you must finally set for yourself. What matters is that you do not rush past this moment just to keep the surface calm. Opening your heart does not mean ignoring your intuition. Love does not require blindness. True love is safe enough to hold truth. When what has been unsaid is finally allowed to speak, not to judge, but to understand, the relationship gains the chance to stand on honest ground. There may be a brief moment of unsteadiness, a heartbeat that quickens, a short silence before words are spoken. Stay there. Do not retreat. Do not defend. You have come far enough to know that real safety does not live in avoidance, but in the ability to face what is real without losing yourself. Sagittarius, love at this stage is not here to test you. It is here to reflect you. It reflects how deeply you respect yourself, how you hold boundaries without closing your warmth, and as you move with that clarity, connections that no longer align begin to fade naturally. What truly belongs moves closer quietly, peacefully. And in that gentle space, where the heart no longer guards itself, yet no longer trades truth for comfort, something beautiful begins to bloom. As if you are no longer meeting love with old fear, but with new trust. Trust that this time, if a hand reaches for yours, it will not take your freedom. It will walk with you forward. Slowly, sincerely, and awake enough to honor the light you carry within. And as your heart settles back into a calm, steady rhythm, Sagittarius, something very deep begins to reveal itself. Not outside of you, not in the eyes of others, but in the deepest place within. The place you once passed over quickly, busy living, busy responding, busy becoming the version the world expected you to be. Now, as the noise finally quiets, that place begins to speak, not urgently, not demanding, just clear. And somehow you know, even if you never had words for it before, that this is what you have been searching for a very long time. The core of this entire journey is not about everything you have been through, but about who you are being called to return to. Sagittarius is no longer being asked to try harder, to endure more, or to sacrifice again. This calling is different. It is gentle, yet impossible to ignore. It asks you to release the version of yourself that lived according to other people's expectations. The version that always tried to be okay, tried to please, tried to keep the peace, even when you were already tired inside. You learned to shrink whenever you felt different. You learned to adjust yourself so no one else would feel uncomfortable. But the truth is, your soul was never meant to contract. You carry a fire for meaning, a longing to live truthfully, to live fully, to live with depth. And now, as old cycles loosen their grip, that fire begins to burn more clearly. Not explosively, but steadily, like a guiding light through a long night. You may have noticed this recently through your dreams. They feel more vivid now, more direct, as if they are trying to tell you something you did not have space to hear during the day, or through intuitions that arrive quickly, accurately, before your mind has time to analyze. You no longer need endless proof to trust what you feel. You simply know, and that knowing feels familiar. As if you are remembering something you once forgot, not learning something new. This is not imagination. This is a real awakening. Not mystical or detached from life, but woven into the smallest choices you make each day. When you begin listening to intuition instead of fear, your decisions change. You become gentler with yourself, more honest in your words, clearer with your boundaries. You stop trying to earn acceptance. You choose full presence and allow what truly belongs to find you naturally. There is something very special about the beginning of a new phase. It is not loud, the way beginnings are often imagined. It feels like very early morning, when the city has not yet awakened, and you are the first to step outside. The air is cool. The light is just enough. Nothing ahead is fully formed yet, but you know, deeply, that you are moving in the right direction. Justice has aligned with you, not as a reward, but as a natural order when you live in truth. Abundance is approaching, not to test you, but to support the person you are becoming. And real love begins to take shape, not from lack, but from inner fullness. But Sagittarius, there is one thing that cannot be skipped. This doorway opens completely only when you dare to say your final goodbye to the past. Not in resentment, not in regret, but in deep gratitude. Gratitude for what made you strong. Gratitude for what taught you that you deserve more. And then, you release it gently, without turning back to check if you missed something. Because you did not miss anything, you completed it. As you move forward now, no longer carrying old stories to define who you are, a new kind of freedom begins to spread. You do not need to become anyone else. You only need to be yourself. Honest enough, awake enough, brave enough to follow the voice within. And in that moment, as you stand fully upright in your own life, you will feel it clearly. This new beginning does not ask you to fight. It invites you to live deeper, to live brighter, and to live in alignment with the soul that has been quietly guiding you from the very beginning.